Because he didn't say what he normally says, I don't know what to say now. Anyway, welcome. For those of you that don't know me, Phil Webster. I've been here at the school since 2002. I was counting up. I was at a conference recently and somebody's asking me, and I just had to actually count the number of years. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be here this evening. As Chris has said, obviously grade 9 is a bit of a tumultuous year for some. That may continue in grade 10. What I hope this evening is going to give you is sort of lay out a plan. We have done this once or twice before. And hopefully Mr. Collins is going to give you an academic overview, which is going to give you an idea of where we head from here. So grade 10, we enter the graduation program, but it's still grade 10. It's not grade 11, it's not grade 12, it's grade 10. They are still boys. They will grow up a lot in grade 10. We see a lot of change between certainly the end of grade 9 and the beginning of grade 11. And that's why I like working with the grade 10s. There's a lot of growth that year, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It's wonderful to see over the year. I hope you're looking forward to it like I am. We have some new opportunities, obviously, next year. We have these new cohort programs, some old, some new. And I'm sure that there are many of you here that have dabbled in that, and hopefully your sons are looking forward to entering those programs. I'm certainly excited about the prospect of those 4 programs, and I'll be working with them, but also obviously with the students who are in the grade 10 program, and we will make it a successful year, hopefully. Mr. Collins, over to you.
Good evening. So what I'd like to do this evening is go through with you some materials that we've gone through with your sons, probably in a little bit more detail than with your sons. 2 things really. I'd like to go through the graduation program because grade 10 is the start of the graduation program, which covers grade 10, 11, 12. And then I'll go through specifics about course selection, and all of the materials and everything are on the website, and I'll just bounce you through quickly some of the materials that are up there so you can recognize how all the bits and pieces fit together. So as we head into the graduation program, I always figure that there's 3 things that we need to take into account, and I see these 3 things as an increasing level of difficulty, but yeah. The first thing that we need to take into account is Ministry of Education graduation requirements, because grade 10, 11, 12 are the graduation program. Ministry of Education graduation requirements will come automatically for your sons. It's nothing that you really need to worry about. It's actually, and this is not meant to be funny or sarcastic or anything like that, it's actually very difficult not to graduate from a high school in BC. The second thing that we need to take into account are St. George's requirements, because St. George's realizes that almost all of the students who come to St. George's are thinking of university as post-secondary educational option. So we put students into some specific programs that they would not necessarily be automatically put into at other high schools, because we know that they need to do these courses in order to go to university. So we have your sons on a university track, and so some of those are a little bit more rigorous than if you were on a non-university track in another high school. And the third thing, which you don't need to really worry about tonight or through most of next year, but you can start thinking about as your sons head into grade 11 and grade 12, are specific university requirements. And really there's general entrance requirements and also requirements that you need in order to get into specific post-secondary programs. Really not much of that plays any role, number 3, plays any role in what your sons are going to do in grade 10. 1 and 2, yes, but those will basically happen. Okay. I'll bounce you through what it takes in order to graduate. You don't need to really make notes or take pictures of any of this, because it's in the information that I've put on the website, and there's a course description booklet on the website. There's 3 links on the front cover of that take you to Ministry of Education documents about the graduation program as well. So I've tried to make it so you can find lots of information, so you can maybe sit back and just watch this one. So a full year course is worth 4 credits. And in order to graduate, students need 80 credits. So if you divide 4 into 80, that's a total of 20 courses over 3 years. And the arithmetic works out really nicely, especially at St. George's, where sometimes students get double credit out of courses. So students at St. George's never have a problem meeting their 80 credit total. And there's credits for things like planning, there's credits for things like graduation transitions, which we don't offer as a course, we just do them in another way, but those still count towards the total of 80. But you can't take 80 credits just of anything. There's compulsory courses, which the ministry calls required courses, so you have to take in a certain number of those courses, and I'll put them up on the screen in a little bit. You can see there I've got at St. George's, those are 56 because that's the courses that put you on a university track and specifically set you up for entrance to BC universities. And there's 4 credits for the graduation transitions program, and then there's elective courses. On the next couple of slides, what I'll do is I'll bounce you through what the Ministry of Education graduation requirement is, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, and then what the St. George's courses are that meet that requirement. So you need to do 3 language arts courses in grades 10, 11, and 12, which is a total of 12 credits in order to graduate. Ordinarily, students do English 10, English 11, English 12, and that covers it off. You can see up there we have a couple of other options. Some students in grade 11 do Lit 12. We have more opportunities for students to take different types of English courses in their grade 12 year. That'll happen pretty easily, but so students in St. George's will do English all the way up to the end of their grade 12 year. You have to do Social Studies 10 and Social Studies 11 in order to graduate. We automatically place students in those courses, so you don't need to do anything about that. You don't need to choose Social Studies 11. Department heads place your sons in a Social Studies 11 class. You need to do Math 10, Math 11 in order to graduate. I'm rounding it off a little bit here because the ministry definition is on the other side. So what I've called Math 10, the ministry calls Foundations of Math and Pre-Calc 10, and what I've called Math 11, the ministry calls Pre-Calc 11. We automatically place students in those classes. It's kind of interesting, if you look at the screen, you'll notice that Math 12 is actually not a graduation requirement. Most students at St. George's take Math 12, but it's actually not a requirement, and there are some students for whom maybe Math 12 in grade 12 is not the right option, and it might be something they pick up later. Students need to do Science 10. We'll put them in a Science 10 class next year. PE 10, once again, we place them in that class. Second language 10, second language 11, those are St. George's graduation requirements or St. George's requirements. They're really based on the fact that a general entrance requirement to UBC and an entrance requirement to a humanities program at UVic is a second language 11. So by having our students do these, in addition to the fact that we like second languages, is that we're automatically covering off some of the entrance requirements to our local universities. Looking ahead, in order to graduate, students need to do 1 Science 11 course in order to graduate. And there's a list up there of courses that could meet that graduation requirement. Students going into a science program post-secondary obviously would probably do 2 sciences in grade 11 and maybe 2 sciences in grade 12. Lots of choice, so students who aren't thinking about sciences can do 1 Science 11, and they'll be able to graduate. Just things to think about going ahead. So students need to do 1 fine arts course in either grade 10, grade 11, or grade 12 in order to graduate. It's an easy graduation requirement if your son is really interested in the fine arts. If your son is kind of okay about fine arts, but it's not one of his passions, maybe he'll become more interested as he works through one of his fine arts courses. So that's 1 course over the 3 years, right? It's not a course every year. Students could do it in grade 10 or grade 11. If your son's not really focused on fine arts, he should do it before grade 12, because by the time he gets to grade 12, he'll be thinking about the things he's really interested in, and he may not want to add in a course that's not his passion, but he'll still need to do it. In the current year, your sons are doing a course called Health and Career Education 9, which we deliver on a pull-out basis from PE. The grade 10 equivalent of that is called Planning 10, which counts for 4 credits, and we'll do that in the same manner on a pull-out basis from PE, so nothing to worry about there. In your grade 12 year, your son has to complete a requirement that's called Graduation Transitions. Graduation Transitions isn't necessarily a course, it's a graduation requirement. In the current year and for the past few years, we've been having students meet that requirement through a half-year course, but we are not going to do that anymore in the coming year, and we'll work in different ways to make sure that students meet this graduation requirement. You're not meant to be able to read that. What I'm trying to do as I go through here is also to highlight information that's been posted to the parent portal. So a more in-depth version with some specific courses and some specific grade 12 courses is a file that looks like that, that's titled Grad Requirements, that's available on the parent portal. The pathway to some of these documents is a little bit convoluted on the parent portal, and I gave you that pathway in one of the emails. I thought it would be useful for you to see how some of our courses flow into each other as students go from grade 9 to grade 10 to grade 11 and grade 12. Math is always a high-profile subject, so I started off with math. Really, we have 2 streams of math. One of them, which is on the left-hand side of the screen, is just the regular math program, which everybody else in the province does. And the other one, which is on the other side of the screen, is an accelerated math program. Math is really curriculum specific, so we can clearly say that one group of students is doing Math 9 and the other group of students is doing Math 10. The group of students who are doing the Math 10 on the right-hand side of the screen have to write a provincial exam, and they'll write that provincial exam in June of this year, sometime towards the end of June. I'm not certain of the date. If people stay in the same streams, then the Math 9 regular people will move to Math 10, like most students in the province, next year, and they'll write their Math 10 provincial exam at the end of sometime in June next year. The people who have finished Foundations and Pre-Calc 10 would ordinarily move into Pre-Calc 11, and you can see on the screen there that in the accelerated portion there's also one competition class, which is for the top math students in the grade. So I think the next slide is important because it might cover off some questions that you have. In grade 11, students in the regular stream go to Pre-Calc 11. Students in the accelerated stream go to Pre-Calc 12. Some of the super high flyers in grade 11 end up doing an AP Calc course in grade 11 in St. George's. They would do that in addition to their Pre-Calc course. Sometimes parents and students are concerned and they say, well, I'm just in the regular stream, but I think I might be interested in sciences, and I think I might be interested in business, and for that I think I'd probably like to do a calculus course in high school before I end up in first-year university. Being in the regular stream in no way keeps students from doing calculus courses in grade 12, so you don't need to think, what are we going to do to get into the advanced stream so we can do a calculus course in grade 12? A really common combination of courses in grade 12 is Pre-Calc 12 in one block and Calc 12 in another block. So students, even if they're in their regular stream, can pick up a calculus course in grade 12. Students in the other stream have more choices of what they might do, AP Calculus, AP Stats, things like that. But the students in the regular stream, if they're strong enough, can do Math 12 and Calculus as high school courses if they want to prepare for business or sciences typically. So we work really hard, I would say, in everything that we do. We want students to make the right choices, and we want students to pick the courses that are the best for them, but we also want to try to keep as many doors open as we can so that students don't feel we're closing doors and closing off what they'd really like to try to do in their future. I'll bounce through the same thing a little bit with English and languages. In the current year, we have some students in English 9, some students in English 9 honors. Nobody in English gets accelerated credit in grade 10. So in grade 10, all of those English students move into English 10 or English 10 honors. We're not really certain what English 10 honors is going to look like next year and how many sections we'll have of English 10 honors, because we now have four cohorts in grade 10. All of those will be cohort people and won't necessarily be English 10 honors specifically. In the end, it doesn't matter because everybody gets credit for English 10 at the end of his grade 10 year, and then everybody writes the provincial exam in English 10 at the end of his grade 10 year. I'm assuming that these provincial exams will still exist next year. The new curriculum for grade 10 doesn't start until the year after next, so I'm assuming that these provincial exams will still exist. Similar situation in French. We've got 3 levels of French. Nobody gets accelerated credit. Students move into French 10, again at different levels, but no accelerated credit in grade 10. Similar things for Spanish or German or Latin. When we get to grade 11, we have 2 streams of English. We have English 11 regular stream and English 11 honors, often made up of the students coming from grade 10 honors, English 10 honors, but as I said, we don't know what's going to happen with the cohorts. Some of the top students in English 11, who would often be in English 11 honors, can qualify to get accelerated credit for English 12 in their grade 11 year, and they would then write the English 12 provincial exam in that year. So some students, it's been about 15 or 20-ish over the last few years. It went down to about 10 because they don't have to take this credit. And there's reasons for taking it, reasons for not taking it. So 10, 15 each year qualify for English 12 as grade 11 students. And a similar thing in the French streams. Looking forward to grade 12, every student needs to take a grade 12 English course, as I said at the start, and we have lots of possibilities. English 12 would be the normal possibility. There's Lit 12, there's Writing 12, there's English AP. Students who don't have credit for English 12 coming out of their grade 11 year, if they take Lit 12 or Writing 12 or English AP, they'll get double credit out of those courses. For example, Writing 12 and English 12 or AP and English 12 or Lit 12 and English 12. They'll get double credit out of those courses in grade 12. One of the main reasons for that is that English 12 is a graduation course and Writing 12 or English AP doesn't meet that graduation requirement. So we have lots, if you think back to the 80 credit total, we have lots of opportunities for students to get double credit. And French 12 is a possible course in grade 12. The current situation at UBC is that you need a language 11 in order to get into UBC, any program. You need a language 12 in order to complete a Bachelor of Arts degree at UBC. So in a couple of years, when your son's thinking about post-secondary, if he's thinking about UBC, and if he's thinking about a Bachelor of Arts, that could factor into his decision whether or not to take a language 12 at St. George's or to do that at UBC. When I was at UBC, there was a course called French 115 that met the grade 12 language requirement. So lots of possibilities, and all of that's really just to give you an idea of where all the bits and pieces are heading so that you can get a feel for the graduation program. For the current year, and I'm guessing for next year and maybe a couple of years after, provincial exams are a reality. There's 3 compulsory provincial exams in grade 10. Math 10, which as we've seen some students will write in the current year. English 10, which we've seen all students will write in grade 10. And Science 10, which we've seen all students will write in grade 10. These are actually low stakes exams. They count for 20% of a student's course final mark in those subjects. One thing that I have forgotten to mention is that the ministry doesn't send out provincial exam results anymore. So if your son is writing Math 10 in the current year, what you'll need to do is log on to the ministry site, and there's a link to the site on the front cover of the course descriptions, and you have to create an account. And so you and your son will get his provincial exam results by logging into your account on the ministry website. There's one compulsory exam in grade 11, which is Socials 11. I think Socials 11 as a course and as an exam will probably still exist by the time your son gets to grade 11, but I'm not certain because the ministry is talking about major revisions to the social studies program. If that exam still exists, it's another low-stakes exam at 20%. There's one compulsory provincial exam in grade 12, which is the one compulsory grade 12 course, which is English 12. This is actually a high-stakes exam. Counts for 40% of the course final mark. It's kind of interesting. What we've done in the current year is we've taken our English 12 provincial exam and we've moved it into an earlier session, which is coming up next week for our students, rather than the session that happens at the end of June, because we found that some of our grade 12s, by the time they went through grad and by the time they got to June 25th, studying for the English 12 provincial exam was one of the lowest priorities on their mind. And unfortunately, since it counts for 40%, for the last couple of years, there's been one or two students in grade 12 who have managed to get themselves unadmitted from their university at the end of June with their June English provincial exam mark, which becomes a challenging problem. We always solve it, but it usually ends up with me on my cell phone somewhere in France talking to Ms. Wessler somewhere in St. George's, trying to figure out how we're going to get these students into a university after they've succeeded in doing so poorly on the English 12 provincial exam. So we hope that by having it by May, it'll help solve this problem. But that'll be a couple of years off for your children. Okay. Currently in grade 9, students have 8 courses. They have 2 elective blocks. Department heads place students in 6 of their 8 courses, all of the regular ones. In general, most elective courses in grade 9 are half-year long. If you think back to grade 8, you remember that your son's elective courses, most of them anyhow in grade 8 were 1 term long. So what we're trying to do, like our philosophical basis for this, in grade 8 we're trying to give students lots of room to experiment and to try lots of different things. In grade 9, we're still leaving lots of room for experimentation, but we're trying to allow students to focus a little bit more on things that they found interesting during their grade 9 studies. What we've also tried to do in our elective program is that most of the courses in grade 9 do not have the corresponding grade 8 course as a prerequisite, and most of the courses in grade 10 electives don't have the grade 9 course as a prerequisite. So once again, we're trying to keep as many doors open for as long as possible. 2 elective courses in grade 10, and you can see how the pattern would go right from grade 8 with 1 term, grade 9 1 semester, grade 10 full year, so students get more of an opportunity to work with areas that they're starting to identify as their passions. Still 8 courses. I've got cohorts there to remind me to mention the elective situation with cohorts. With all of the 4 cohorts, and I'm sure you've heard this before during the cohort presentations, there's one elective that's part of the cohort. So in the current year, there's an elective called Discovery 10, and there's an elective called Connect 10. Next year, there'll be also an elective called Fusion 10 and an elective called Express 10. So that means that students in the cohorts have one elective that's part of their cohort on one day. That's usually their cohort day. And they have another elective on the other day that's outside of their cohort. I tend to call them in my own mind free will electives. Prerequisites I've talked about, we try to keep those to a minimum. Looking ahead, in grade 11 there's 8 courses. In grade 11, all electives are full year in length. There's 4 elective blocks in grade 11. And in grade 11, we allow some students to take only 7 courses and have their 8th block as a study block. When students go to grade 12, students put together their entire timetable in grade 12. So department heads place students in 4 courses in grade 11, 6 courses in grade 10. Students put together their entire timetable in grade 12. One of them has to be an English course, and students can have 2 study blocks in grade 12. I've called them study block students, so you'll sometimes feel they're spares. You're not supposed to be able to read this, but I wanted to talk a little bit about what I did with your sons. So with your sons, we met with them in 2 large sessions. We went through all of the things that I've just spoken to you about, and I had them fill out this form here, which has been posted to the parent portal as well. This form is in the area under report cards, so it's in the same place your son's report cards are filed. We probably had about a 90% success rate. Some students were away, some students figured that they didn't have enough time to fill them out, but most students actually got this done. What I tried to do is on the front side of the sheet, which is on the left-hand side, I tried to get the students to think about themselves and think about what they're good at and think about what they're less good at. And then once they'd done that, then I asked them to fill out what they think they might do for electives next year. What I tried to emphasize with your sons, and which may tie in a little bit to what Dr. Webster was saying, I tried to emphasize to your sons that what they should be looking at, and the reason that I'm having them to fill out what they're good at, is they should be looking at themselves and what their interests are. I tried to work really hard with them to say, don't worry about what your friend is doing. It may not be the right thing for you, and just because your friend is doing it, that's not a good reason for you to do it. And just because your friend's parents say that your friend is going to go to a high-profile U.S. university, which may or may not be true, there's no necessity for you to try to copy your friend's course selections. So I tried to work really hard about students realizing where their strengths are, where they're most likely to be successful. I even counseled them that occasionally there may even be differences between their desires and their parents' desires. And I told them they would have to work through that with their parents. And these are things that I asked on that sheet. So if you've gone onto the parent portal, you can see this. What's difficult? What's interesting? What are you good at? After that, decide which courses you want to take, rather than decide which courses you want to take because your friends are doing it and your friends' parents say they're good things to do. And what the students have filled out is really this for discussion with you. So I'm trying to get parents and their children to talk together, think about what are the best choices for the children. And they would have filled out this, so they would have put one course in Block C, one course in Block F, an alternate for each one. If in the cohort, they would have just picked, they didn't know if they were in a cohort or not by this time, so most of them put electives in 2 blocks. Most students now know whether or not they're in a cohort or not, or they're still just going to make their final decision. And so this is really tentative, right? And then you can work from that. With your sons, I went through a list of courses that are available in each block. I've got course descriptions, so I'm actually not going to go through each one of these one by one to tell you what the course is about, because I think that would be wasting your time. Just a couple of things I'd like to pick up, though. Many, but not all of these courses don't have prerequisites, as I mentioned. Most of these courses, but not all, are not prerequisites for corresponding course in grade 11 or grade 12. One that I might pick out would be Business Ed 10. So Business Ed 9 is not a prerequisite for Business Ed 10. Business Ed 10 is not a prerequisite for Econ 12 or for Econ AP. So students don't need to think, how am I going to fit all of this together? I really want to do Econ when I'm in grade 11 or grade 12. I think I'd better do Business 9 or Business 10. They don't have to do that. They should do Business 9 or Business 10 because they're really interested in doing that as a grade 9 or grade 10 student, rather than thinking it's a necessary first step for success in Econ 12 or Econ AP as senior students. Everything that's on this page here, which will correspond to a page that you have on the parent portal, is available to grade 10 students. even if it's numbered 11 or even if it's numbered 12. So some of these courses are more appropriate to grade 10 students than others. You may notice on here that in the Block F column, there's GovPol AP and there's Psych AP. These are AP courses, they're first-year university courses. We set up fairly rigorous entrance requirements to get into these courses because they're definitely not courses that are for everybody. They're courses that are for the top academic students in the school. Perhaps as Dr. Webster was saying, I think we need to continue to speak about the fact that there is no magic number of APs for admission to high-profile U.S. universities. The university reps clearly say there is no magic number. I was talking one time to a parent who said, my son needs to have completed 5 APs by the end of grade 11 in order to get to the university of his dreams. And all I could tell her was that's not true. Students do not need to have completed 5 APs in order to get to selective universities. Many of our students do a couple of APs in grade 11 and maybe 3-ish or 4-ish in grade 12. That's enough. So students in grade 10 don't need to do APs. If they're really strong students and they're passionate about them, that's a good reason. If they think it's the only way to get to high-profile post-secondary options, that's not a good reason. If their friend wants to do it, that's an even worse reason. There's one other piece here as well that we need to look at. You'll notice that in the column in Block C, there's no AP courses. There's 2 in Block F. That's not on purpose, and I think it's just happened that way as we developed our schedule over the years. That means if you're in a cohort group that's in Block F is your cohort day, that means the students are not able to take an AP course as grade 10s. I've spoken to a few parents of students who are thinking about going into a cohort and who may see that they're, in that manner, they're not able to apply to be in an AP course in grade 10. And I spoke to a couple of parents last year about the same thing as well. My discussion with these parents really centered around the fact, well, my advice to these parents centered around the fact that next year's grade 10, your son has a unique opportunity to do an exciting program. That opportunity will not be there in grade 11. Right? It's a grade 10 program, it's not a grade 11 program. The AP course is going to be there in grade 11. So for me, the choice is obvious. Some students have a harder time with this choice, but for me, it's obvious. You have a wonderful program, and next year's the chance to do it. AP courses will be there in grade 11 and grade 12. Yeah, and you can read the rest of the course descriptions. And this is the booklet that I have on the parent portal. In the part on the left there, which is the title page, you can see there's 3 links. I think the top link is the link to the Ministry of Education website where you would go to create an account in order to get your provincial exam results. There's also lots of links off of there. I find this a pretty useful site. The next 2 links are for 2 graduation planners that the ministry puts out. One of them is called the Grad Planner. One of them is called the Dogwood Planner. They're both for 2015, 2016 because they haven't put out materials for next year yet. They're really destined for grade 12 students. But if you look at these, it'll help give you a wider feel for the graduation program and what's ahead for your son. And you will need the first link there in order to get your grade 10 exam results, in order to get your 11 and 12 exam results. You also need to go to that place when your son's in grade 12 in order to fill out a ministry form which tells the ministry where to send your son's final transcript, to which universities to send your son's final transcript after he graduates in July. So that's in there. It's a PDF. It works okay. It works way better than a Word document. The links work really well as a PDF. The table of contents is live, so if you click on it, it'll take you right to the page number, and it works better in a PDF form. This form is there as well, and if you've been on, you've probably seen it. So this is the form that you use to actually select your courses for next year. It's a fillable PDF, so theoretically, if all goes well, Macs sometimes cause problems. If all goes well, you can type into this form. What you need to do is then save it somewhere, and I think in Mac I've got if you look at the bottom there, that little box says what to do if it doesn't appear to be filling out on a Mac. So I think Mac, you basically print it to PDF, attach it to an email and send it to us, and I've given you the email address, or if you want, you can print it out right on it and bring it and drop it off hard copy. All of that's fine. And all the courses are listed there as well. There's a place for the parent to type in your name, and you could just tick the box and that'll work for an electronic signature. Or bring it in hard copy. Please don't email it to me. There's a registrar inbox that's listed on here. When you read that, and I'm going to repeat it at the end of this, the first time to hand in this form is next Friday, which is May 13th. So I'm trying to give you lots of time to think what you want to do, discuss with your son, follow up any other information that you need. So there's really no need to fill this out and think, whatever, I want to get it in right away to make sure I get in the courses that we want. There's time. So we've built in time so that you have time to think about how all the things will fit together. I've got a little bit here about languages. So students, core languages are French, Spanish, Mandarin. All of your sons are probably in one of those. Electives are German, Japanese, Latin. There's a few people who will be doing Latin and a modern language. As I said before, everybody studies a language to the end of his grade 11 year. If students want, they can substitute an elective language, German, Japanese, Latin, for a core language, and there's always a few students each year who do that. And if your son's doing that, remember that in his current grade 10 year, in his current grade 9 year, if he's doing Japanese 9 and not French 9 or Spanish 9 or Mandarin, he's had to pick up a grade 10 elective in what would ordinarily have been his language 9 block. So he would do the same thing in the coming year. In what would have ordinarily been his French 10 block, if he's doing Japanese, he'll pick up an alternate elective, which would be a grade 11 elective. I have 3 slides that I just need to give you the information. So they're a little bit restrictive, but I think it's okay. So we saw there's a fine arts graduation requirement. Our overall philosophy is that if students want to graduate from St. George's, then they need to do their graduation requirements at St. George's. I know there's lots of fine arts courses out there that students do, and I know there's lots of music lessons that will produce ministry credit, and we're happy to put those on your son's ministry transcript and give him that ministry credit, probably in his grade 12 year. However, we still want all students who graduate from St. George's to do one fine arts course at St. George's in either grade 10, grade 11, or grade 12. So it's fine for students to have extra credits from fine arts outside. We still want students to do at least one fine arts course in St. George's in grade 10, 11, 12. As a continuation of the same theme, we want students to meet all their graduation requirements at St. George's. So we don't want students to do graduation requirements at summer school. Courses that sometimes come up are Socials 10, Math 10, Science 10. So sometimes students will come and say, I'd really like to do Science 10 in the summer after my grade 9 year, and then I'll do Chem 11 as a grade 10 student. We've got lots and lots of opportunity for acceleration and advanced courses at St. George's. We don't want students self-accelerating in that manner. So if a student comes and says, I want to do Science 10 in the summer, or I want to do Socials 10 in the summer in order to do a grade 11 Science as a grade 10, or Socials 11 as a grade 10, we'll say no. It's kind of the same thing for math, although if your son is in the regular math stream and if he's doing really, really well in the regular math stream, it may be possible for him to do a summer school course, but all of that is, those are lots of ifs, and it may be possible. He needs to discuss with Mr. Jones, who's the department head of math, if he thinks he's a good candidate for moving from the regular stream of math into the honors stream of math. What your son should not do is he shouldn't go and do the summer course and then come back and tell us in September, I've decided to change math stream, so I went off to do a summer course. We'd like to be involved in the decision-making process. The last slide kind of hits on the AP theme one more time. And I'm not anti-AP. I'm anti, I don't want people to think they have to do lots and lots of APs. So what we feel is that in grade 11, students have lots and lots of things to do inside the classroom and lots of things to do outside the classroom. With cohorts, there's even more, there's a wider, richer range of opportunities for students. So as a school, we're totally opposed to grade 10 students working with a tutor or going to a private company in order to prepare for AP exams as a grade 10 student. And we feel so strongly about that, we won't register students in grade 10 for self-studied AP exams at St. George's, because we think they really should not be doing that. There's so many other things they should be doing, and they don't need to bank APs in grade 10. They'll be fine if they don't have APs in grade 10, and most of our students don't have APs in grade 10. I hope those last 3 slides don't appear to be negative, but I think I need to be honest. Okay. I think this is the final one. As I said, Friday, May 13th, to hand in your elective choice forms, not before 8 o'clock, please. And we basically do first come, first served. But then it got a little bit silly because then people were starting to line up outside my office in order to hand in their forms, and I don't think we want that. So what we've done is we've created a couple of time blocks. So we've set it up any time between 8 and 12 on the first day as first priority. So you don't need to line up to hand it in, and you don't need to get up early to hit the send button on your attachment right at 8 o'clock. So we've tried to set up groups to avoid that kind of panic. Hand them in at my office, or you can email them as attachment to registrar at St. George's. Screenshots don't work particularly well, so it's way better if you can print it or save it as a PDF attachment, attach it to your email. This presentation will be also put on the parent portal. The PowerPoint will go there, and the whole speaking part will go there as well. Mr. Heskes is up there putting it on a video. Here I've said in 2 or 3 days. I don't know the exact timing of it because sometimes it takes more time rather than less time for YouTube to get St. George's video set up on there. What I'll do is when I put the PowerPoint on the parent portal, I'll put in a new first slide, and on the new first slide I'll put the link to the YouTube video of this whole presentation. I think I've already bombarded you with enough emails as it is, so I won't send you a third email to say, okay, everything, the PowerPoint and the YouTube video link are now on the parent portal. So if you check back in a couple of days, it'll be there somewhere, and it'll probably be in the same place as all of the course selection materials. Yeah, the PowerPoint will go with the course selection materials. So we're trying to give you as much information as possible in as many different ways as possible. So that's really all I had for a presentation tonight. Dr. Webster and I will stay around for a little bit to see if you have any specific questions, or if you have specific questions that you can't get answered tonight, or you have to go, or it just gets too crowded. You can email me as well, and I know a few parents have emailed me already, and that's a good way to work through things. And if I can't answer them, I may refer you to department heads or people who are best able to answer them. So thank you so much. I wish you and your sons all the best for the rest of this year, and then moving ahead into the next 3 years of the graduation program. Thanks a lot.